you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Well, if Scott's ready, then everybody's ready. So let's go with our Sales Slap game.
To the Sales Slap podcast, where we hit you with the hard truths, bold strategies, and expert insights you need to master the art of selling. And who's leading the charge? Meet your hosts, Rick Denley, Simon Hares, and Scott Donald. Get ready for real talk, expert advice, and game-changing strategies. Because in sales, you don't just play, you slap. Let's dive in.
And let's dive in today. Dr. Alison Edgar is our guest today. She is one of the She is one of the UK's leading voices in entrepreneurship and high performance culture, known as the creator of the entrepreneurial mindset. She's a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and advisor who has worked with organizations including Amazon, Adobe, Nestle, LVMH, and my favorite, British Airlines, delivering around 70 keynotes a year to audiences from boardroom leadership teams. She's even spoken at the United Nations.
Wow.
In Geneva. I want to hear more about that. I want to also share that you're awarded an MBE for services to business and entrepreneurship. You hold an honorary doctorate and grew up in Clydebank, just outside Glasgow. You went from hotel front of house to working with FTSE clients and global brands. Interesting fact, you have dyslexia and is open about how that shaped the way you think, communicate, and lead. Dr. Alison Edgar, welcome to Sales Slap.
Oh, thank you for
having me. And the poor part about it is that our incredible co-host Simon can't be here today.
He's
vacationing in our beautiful Western Canada and enjoying himself out there. But maybe you can share with us how you know this group, which is really through Simon.
So I met Simon about a decade ago, I think, when I set up originally I set up a sales training company. So Simon and I we lived geographically maybe 30 minutes from each other. And we just would meet each other at networking, and then obviously the power of LinkedIn, which again is great for us all, isn't it? And then last year, for the first time, we got together to work for a joint client. So I did the sales training part for the team and he did the coaching. And again, it was just it really dovetailed. But every time I meet him, I call him my sales brother and he calls me his sales sister. So
sales brother and sister, that's great.
Yeah, we're brother and sister, and I am very sad that he's not with us today, but I'm sure that based on the fact he lives about 30 minutes from me, I can catch up when he gets back from Canada.
And we'll try to muddle through this, Rick and I, with you. We'll get through it somehow. Although I want to be careful, because if Simon watches this and he hears us being all mopey about Simon not being here, it's going to go to his head. So let's maybe kind of.
Yeah, we're going to do fine without Simon.
Yeah. So who is this Simon you speak of? I don't know who you're talking about.
But it's great that you can collaborate with him. And that's what it's all about. That's why we're here today as well on Sales Slap. Dr. Alison, we like to collaborate with others and we like to share as well. And you have so much to give and to share. In fact, I just want to let people know right away, if I can, that you actually wrote a couple of books, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, that's my first one. And Simon, I don't know if you saw on LinkedIn, going back in the day, he had these steps in his garden and he would have all these little books going up. And I think it was one of the first posts he did with that. And I'm like, I could see my book on Simon's steps. I was very excited.
Mine was there too. And it just gives you this warm feeling when he does
lovely,
that.
Isn't it? This book did well. I'm proud of both the books, but I think again, it's a bit like your children, isn't it? That I'm really proud of this one and that one, and I'm not allowed to have a favorite. But I think you kind of bond with that first one because it's the that new experience. So I'm really pleased.
Tell me, who is this book aimed at? If people are watching today and they're curious if they should go and get this book, who is this book going to help?
Well, I think it was really interesting because the people that buy it are not really the people I wrote it for, which sounds a bit bizarre. So when I set up the company, it was aimed at small businesses, right? And I think part of the reason it was aimed at small businesses was because I lacked confidence in who I could help. So I thought, well, as a small business, you've never had a day's sales training in your life. You
Right.
don't really know about sales. And again, when you would meet people at this time, I mean, this is over a decade ago, people go, oh, I hate sales. I'm going to outsource that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, well, right away, we know your business is going to really struggle because do you know how much a good salesperson costs? They're such a commodity. You're going to have to take that into your margins. So it was originally set up for that. And then what happened was people that I'd been selling for years were reading it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't actually write that book for you. Oh, no, you're going to think, oh, I don't think you're going to like that because you know all these things. And again, I think sometimes we've got an assumption, not just in sales, but we sort of think, oh, you know all this. But actually what happened was people from even bigger organizations where they didn't know it all, and they would come back to me and say, oh, look, this has happened. And then I think one of the cutest things about that book, I got a message on LinkedIn. I had no idea that this was happening, but they were using it as the framework for the apprenticeships training. So they were using that as the framework of how to teach sales for all the apprenticeships in Ireland. And I had no idea. It wasn't until somebody tagged me in a post to say, yeah, we use that. We all know your steps of the sale because we follow your book. So again, sometimes when you put your knowledge out there, you have an idea of who you think you are writing this book for, but actually the people who read it were not the people there. And honestly, part of me, I would go, I didn't write that book for you. I don't know why you're reading that book.
Listen, it really doesn't matter as long as people are getting value and benefit from it. Then you moved on and you wrote your second book. Tell us about this one.
I did. So the second one, right, can we keep a secret? Obviously, we're not going to tell, we're definitely not going to tell Simon, and all the listeners and all the viewers have to make sure they don't tell anyone.
Okay.
But during this sort of writing the first book, you can see in the bio, there isn't really a mention of sales, because what I sort of learned during that time period, that although I love sales, not everyone does. So this, I feel like, I'm there trying to convert people to sales. But if you look at it from a business perspective, that if I just talk about sales rather than entrepreneurship, if I talk about entrepreneurship, I can hit 100% of employees of organizations. Whereas if I talk about sales, I can only really touch the souls of about 10%. So what I had to do is really recapture the sales process and what I talk about in sales, because, and I'm sure like both you guys would agree with me 100% that everything we do in our life is a sale. Absolutely. Trying to get your kid to empty the dishwasher.
I say it all the time. Not everybody is in sales, but everybody sells in one way or another, in every role and everything that we do in life as well. So people just don't like to hear that they're in
they don't like. And people are scared because it's wrapped in rejection. We know the psychology behind it. So
what's so interesting is, there's a whole bunch of things you talked about that I want to touch on, and we've only got so much time. But I feel like it's the rejection piece, but I think a lot of people feel like sales is icky. Right. It's got a poor perception. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And it's well earned. But it's interesting. I had a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago. And they said to me, I'm not really a salesperson. And I remember, and it was an environment where it was okay to swear. And I won't swear here. But I said to them, do you like meeting new people? They said, yes. I said, do you like learning about these people? Yes. Do you like helping people solve problems? Yes. I said, well, then you're an effing salesperson. Right. And they kind of sat back and went, I suppose. But I think there's a notion that sales is selling something to somebody that they don't really want or convincing them. And I feel like that's part of what drives me. And it sounds like it drives you as well, is to help those business owners and help those folks who don't consider themselves to be salespeople to see it's a noble profession and you're really there helping people solve problems and achieve what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, for me, the core of the first book is when it's delivered correctly, sales and customer service is exactly the same thing, right? So for me, there's because if it's not the right product or the right service, then don't sell it, because that's unethical selling. So to me, you've got the line, but then like trying to bring those techniques into organizations that don't see themselves as salespeople, because I believe that everybody, from whether you're the janitor to the CEO, we're all working in sales.
Agreed.
So what I think is really interesting is when people talk to me about, oh, so what do you think? If you could give one tip, what's the best thing that would help a salesperson improve? And again, we're all here in this space. We know that it's just about asking amazing open questions and then listening to the answer. Who, what, why, where, when, how. Who, what, why, where, when, how. And that's all it is, right? That's great.
Can I give you what I think it is?
Yeah.
I did this post about a year ago, and I had my wife help me. I was wearing a white dress shirt, and I opened it up to another shirt, and I had somebody superimpose a C on it. Yeah. And I think that the superpower that salespeople have and need to exercise is curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity. And then that's how you air it, is those questions, isn't it?
Yes.
But then this is where I think it's really interesting. This is where that I think it can joins to leadership, and it can joins to business, which again, not just one department, but the whole thing. Because, coming back to sales getting a bad reputation, it's when people are sold at. Do you want to buy my product? Yes. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that?
Yeah,
they're not curious. They're pushing, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same as leadership, right? So this is why I'm so passionate about it, because how do you
there goes Rick.
Your team? Like, if you're saying, go and do this, you go do that. I'm telling you to do that. Nobody's buying into that. That's bad. Whereas if you're saying, let's have a look, where are you in this? What do we need from that? If you, on a scale of 1 to 5, how fulfilled are you? 5 is that you're not, and 1 is that you are. What can we do to move that forward? Then you get your team, and that's how you lead them, by open questions.
All right, Dr. Alison, you got me all excited because I've heard leadership and leading now, and Scott sees me just chomping at the bit here. So I'm
gonna go now. I don't need to be here anymore.
Let me ask you this question, and for our viewers out there, I didn't share these ahead of time with Dr. Alison, so I'm putting you on the spot. But you teach that entrepreneurship isn't about innovation for a select few. It's about everyday ownership for broad professional middle. From leadership perspective, what are the first behaviors managers and leaders need to stop rewarding? And what are the first ones they need to start reinforcing if they want their teams to think and act like owners? Entrepreneurship. Help me understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because the original white paper that was written on entrepreneurship was around innovation. And the person I talk about as the sort of poster person for entrepreneurship is Tony Fadell from Apple. So he was an employee, he created the iPod, went on to be the iPhone. And again, that's the difference between the entrepreneur, the Steves, and the entrepreneur, the employees. But that's not the problem. If you look at organizations, the main problem they have, yes, as we go through the AI challenges, yes, people are going through change, and we do need new systems and we need new processes. But the biggest challenges organizations have: department silo, colleagues fall out, people don't do things in a timely fashion, they get really overwhelmed, then they don't feel fulfilled at work. So the main thing, again, comes back to the mindset. So if you're going into work and, let's use the old adage, sales and marketing, because they don't always bond particularly well together. Marketing don't give us great leads. Sales don't know how to close leads. They're really bad at what we do. So again, that fuels and it affects the results. Whereas actually, if you feel like going, right, I'm not going to do that for Janet because she's not closing that properly, really getting Janet to think, well, hang on a minute, what would I do if it was my business? So again, changing the way people think, the way they feel, and the way that they act. They wouldn't be ignoring Janet's email. They would be prioritizing working together to close sales, because sales is the lifeblood of any business. So it's always about the way that it's about, really taking that breath. What would I do if it was my business? That's the entrepreneurship piece. And then when I created the sort of thoughts behind it, you've got to create something that's teachable. So it's got 3 strands. And the first one is, what would I do if it was my first day? So coming back to what you just said there, Scott, about the curiosity, on your first day, you're there on time, hopefully. You're there ready for work, you're prepared, you've maybe got, you've got on your best clothes, or you've got your laptop charged, you've got all those things, and you're curious, you want to find out about your colleagues, you want to enjoy it, you're there, you may be a bit anxious, But what happens again, if you look at longevity and habitualization, people get like, oh, I've got to go to work today. The novelty wears off, the excitement wears off.
Yeah, it's that
Entrepreneurs can
Sunday night
always
that you
find the
expect
energy.
the morning.
Yeah, you bring
Yeah.
that and you go, right, today's going to be a great day. And like people say to me, how do you stay in that state of great dayness? I'm like, well, music for me is one of the things. And people go, oh, what do you listen to? And I'm like, Take That didn't do particularly well in the US or North America, but there's a song that they sing. Today this could be the greatest day of our lives. And
I'm
if you get
Googling
up
that.
in the morning, think it's your first day, then you're
Yes.
coming in with that positivity. And no matter what happens on that day, you just move your thoughts around, think, feel, act, isn't it? So you're in control of that. And then obviously, if we look at the connectivity between great salespeople and great leaders, the second strand is definitely building great relationships, really the rapport, understanding yourself, a self-awareness, and how to adapt to others. And we all know here, great salespeople just do that. They were trained in it, they live and breathe it, and they maximize it. Great entrepreneurs create great support networks and great teams around them, which helps to create that fulfillment work.
Yeah, and it's all relationship based, which I love to hear from you as well. That's what people have to remember is that, some of us start off, and it's funny because even at a young age, I had people say to me, he's going to be a great salesman. He's got the gift of the gab and things like that. But we know it's more than that.
Yeah.
It's like you say, it's fine tuning those skills of relationship building, communication, and understanding how. And as a long-term coach, and not just for salespeople and executives coaching, I coached sports teams for years as well. And I understood the important part of building those teams and having people interact correctly together and leading them in that fashion. And you mentioned it too. Leaders build great teams, and that comes from relationship building, and relationship building is sales.
Yeah, and that is exactly. So at the end of the second book, so it's called Smash It, The Art of Getting What You Want. So it's full on in the personal development space. And what I found was, again, people, and a lot of people in their life are unfulfilled. They're not getting what they want. They're miserable. They're not taking those opportunities to smash it. I think that's quite a UK thing. I think in North America, that means something a bit different. So
yeah, we're slapping it here. So we slap it here, you smash it there.
So to me, it's having a process to follow.
Yes.
Have a goal, and it's such strong synergies between sales and personal development, because you've got a target, you've got a purpose for the target, you've got a reason for the target, you break it down, you take step by step, and that's like getting what you want in your life. You've got to know what you want, but you've got to know why you want it, because in the days that it's really tough to get it, like you might want to run a marathon, you got to get up and put your trainers on in the rain, whether you feel like it or not. You got to go and do it and take the steps.
That's such a good point. And I often share with people, when you set your goals, you have to realize that you have to be passionate about it. And when that passion meets purpose, that's when your why is going to be
100%. And it's like, and again, I think one of the things, bringing it back to sales, I don't know about North America, but in the UK, they've cut some of the layers out of middle management. And to me, the middle management layer of coaching, again, that should resonate with you, Rick.
Yes.
That's so important, because really working with somebody and get them to think through that thought process of, like, I might want to buy a Dodge car or whatever it is, or anything. But why do you want that? Why do you want that specific one? And then having that goal board, having that vision of it. And I think back in the day, again, I worked for Yellow Book for 15 years, pre-digitalization, and they were a brilliant company. They were cash rich, they were a monopoly. They obviously didn't change at the right time. So one of my big topics is around change and when to change.
And I wrote that down here.
It's such a big topic, but I think that was we were given the luxury, like in the UK market, if you were applying for a job and you said you worked for Yellow Pages, like they were queuing up to take you. You hardly had to apply. And I worked for them for 15 years. So I was given the luxury of having great coaching on the job. I was given the luxury of having great goal setting, great techniques. So, I think that's something. But ultimately, when I wrote both the books, every day was a school day for me because of the dyslexia, I really struggled to read. So it's not like I had read a lot of sales books. It was just, what did I do differently to people with erratic performance?
Right.
What did the other people that, I would surround myself, that, the peer network, what did they do differently? And I think, as I went through the book and writing the chapters, I would say to myself and my team, I've got a great team that work for me. What have we learned? Because we've got to learn something when we're writing this. It's really important.
Yeah.
And everything comes back down to that mindset. Really, the mindset to me is such an important piece and you can't give that to someone. You can educate, but they've got to want that themselves.
Yeah. In Smash It and Secrets of Successful Sales, you talk about clarity, confidence, and taking action, which I love. I mean, there's clarity and confidence, but then you got to do something with it. How can leaders translate those principles that you just mentioned into simple decision-making framework that helps employees make smarter choices inside their existing roles? I find with the up and coming generations, and not to label anybody, but we need to be confident in making decisions without constantly needing permission or direction. How do we do that as leaders? How do we get people to do
I think it's interesting because that does really come back to that everyday entrepreneur. We want people to take ownership. We want people to think, well, what would I do if it was my business? But this is where leaders need to lead, not manage. They need to lead. And how you do that, you create a fertile soil. So coming back to, you were talking about your sports coaching, Rick, I'm not sure what sport it was, but let's say it was soccer or it was football or whatever it was. Football, American football, or
we're probably hockey here in Canada.
I know, but I think what Alison talking about is proper footy, right? You're talking about football.
Yeah. Or did you say ice hockey? Did you say hockey?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we're big hockey. I'm a hockey mom. So my son played hockey.
Come on.
Went to see we're a big hockey family. So
we have to talk more about that.
Man of the match and all that.
We're the Maple Leafs team in our house. So I don't know whether that's how.
Wow. Now we're talking. Now we're globally.
Whatever.
You go to the good team with the Maple Leafs, which I don't really want to talk about right now. But so back to the question.
If you look at coaching, so again, it's the analogy with sport, isn't it? How does somebody become a great hockey player? Well, they've got to keep falling down, and then they've got to the coach has got to say, right, okay, that is what can we have improved on there? What can we do to stop you from falling down? And that's the same when people are scared. And I think coming back to generational, people say to me, oh, my team really lack confidence. But the way to build confidence is through resilience and allowing people to try it.
Yep.
And then again, how do you rank? How you got on with this? What do you think we need to do? You think you were a 3 out of 5. Okay, where do you think you fell down to be a 5 out of 5 on that task? And then what have we learned from that? And then you give them those things to practice. Again, a bit like hockey, how do you win the hockey match? You've got to be a good skater. You've got to play with your team. You've got to know when to pass. So to me, that's the leadership piece, is allowing people, they're not going to get it right. But what happens again, when leaders haven't been trained properly, they micromanage. So they're either micromanaging it and going, do this, do that, do the next thing. But they're not learning. Or even worse, they jump in and do it for them. You don't see the coach jumping off with a stick going, oh, you weren't good at getting the goal. I'll just do that for you. But we see that in...
That's a great example.
This again, a whole bunch of stuff to unpack here. What I took from you talking about writing the books is I think organizations, especially sales teams, are always trying to go so fast that I think they're trying to compensate for lack of a plan by more activity, more of this, like just go, go, go. And it strikes me that part of the process that you went through was that you had to slow down to sort of write the book and get the thoughts out of your head and have some realizations about processes and about steps. And I'm a big believer in the benefits of slowing down in order to speed up. And an example of that, and you touched on it, what I see a lot, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but I've done a fair bit of coaching, is that what tends to happen is that because we have this thing, it's about speed, you come to me with a question, and as the manager, I give you the answer, right? And then you go away. And so now you talked about, entrepreneurship and ownership. Well, if I give you the answer, I still own it, because if it goes sideways, it's on me.
Yeah.
You haven't learned anything. You haven't had a chance to make a mistake and learn from it. So, there's, I think, part of what I wanted to just sort of drive home is this notion of, I think from a leadership perspective and from a sales perspective and from a team perspective, you really need to slow down, analyze performance, X's and O's practice, and then go faster, but not fast all the time.
Right.
So I couldn't agree more. But I think this is coming back to the sort of the combo between entrepreneurship and sales. That if you were to say to people, right, if you follow a process, like I've got it in the first book, and I call it the blobs, right? So there's, in the middle, there's the customer winning the business, and then you follow the blobs. And if you follow the blobs, then you should win the sale.
Follow the blobs.
Follow the blobs. We're all right. Follow the blobs.
Follow the blobs.
But if you look, right, and this is, again, coming back to how I was kind of taught, working for, again, a cash-rich company, great coaching, that I would work with my leader, the sales leader, and he would listen into the call. And then he would then get me to rank myself. Like, how do you think your intro was on a scale of 1 to 5? Actually, that was a bit ropey. That was a 2. I didn't bond.
That was a bit what? Sorry? That was a bit...
I don't know, a bit ropey, did I say? Was that a bit...
So wait, hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what is that?
Not good. A bit ropey is not brilliant, not great. So it was a bit ropey. So
ropey. We
it
just
was
learned
a
a new
2.
word.
We learned a new word.
It was a 2.
Okay.
So then you would work with your leader, and your leader go, okay, so what do you think you need to do to take that to a 5?
Fantastic.
So then you're coming up with the ideas. So, but this
you're
is where
coming up with the ideas.
You're coming up with the ideas. But then this is where I think, what would you do if it was your own business, right? So if you work in an organization, you're given the data, or you're given the list, or, if you're an SDR, you've got all your stuff going on. But if that was your own business, you wouldn't want to be burning any of that data, because it's gold. So you would then take away yourself, and you would self-coach. You would take this and you would sit there again, self-coaching for me, because if that was your business, but if you're not thinking like an entrepreneur, you're just thinking like an employee, you're waiting for somebody to tell you to do that. This is the flip in the mindset of, what does he know? Because he's really rubbish, or what do they know? They've never worked in sales, or what do they know? So you don't take it on board.
And I want to introduce another word here quickly, and then I'm going to get to a little section that we have about this time, Scott knows about, which is autonomy. And I think the good leaders are sharing, and I hear that in what you're saying as well, is that we have to provide people autonomy to learn and to grow, not hover 100%. Over them, not always be correcting. And then you used a term which I really like, which is self-correct and self-learn, which we do when we're given enough time and space to create that ourselves. And that's a type of autonomy. And I knew when I was under different leadership, I really wanted some autonomy. Let me fall down, pick myself back up, and learn that way as well, because I'm going to get better. Give me the guidance, but give me some autonomy as well. I want to share a few other incredible things that we've heard here today.
And now the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time for Ricky's recap. Take it away, Ricky.
The much anticipated Ricky's recap.
Much anticipated.
We heard so much today, which I think is great. I want to start with this. Intra, not entre. It's spelled intrapreneurship. And it's all about, what would I do if it was my business? How would I act? How would I perform? And that's one of the key messages from Dr. Alison today. As well, act as if it's your first day. That type of energy, that type of awareness that you bring. Be curious, right, Scott? Always be curious, whether it's your first day or your 600th
day.
Superpower. Be positive. Don't be ropey. All right, we heard a new term today. Do not be ropey. Love that. And at the end of the day, build great relationships and great teams with confidence and resilience. And I got to tell you too, at the end of the day here, please just go out and buy and read these books. Where can everybody get your books, Doctor? Where can they find them?
They're all on Amazon. Everyone's on Amazon. And I've just done an updated version 2 of Smash It. And
Nice.
I'll give you another little secret. I am now writing book number 3.
Oh, are we hearing it here first? Is this the first time that?
You've got the title. I'm trying to
Exclusive.
find a publisher. I'm trying to get
Exclusive.
it published by one of the mainstream. So we've sent it out. We have been offered a book deal by a big publishing house, but not the book that I want to write. So we're kind of in debate with that at the moment of where we go. But yeah, no, book 3 will be on its way soon. Watch this space.
Nice,
Wow.
exciting.
That's an exclusive for us here on Sales.
This is a bit of an exclusive.
I like that. That's absolutely fantastic. Well, we've had a great time having you on our show today. We really appreciate you coming on. I know that everybody's going to reach out to you. They're going to get linked in with you as well. And they're going to read your books, including the third one when it does get released.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on our show today. We really appreciate it. Scott, do we know who we've got coming up next on the Sales Slam?
We do. And I just wanted, before I say that, I said, I love your energy. And I know why you and Simon are sales brothers and sisters now. And you're a hockey mom. So you know what? That my respect for you has just risen that much more now. So I love it.
I used to be the announcer. Does that mean
Come
I've
on.
gone through the roof? I was the announcer.
I can see that.
But there's a semi-pro team there called the Glasgow. What's the team called in Glasgow?
The Glasgow, is it Chiefs? Glasgow Chiefs?
Mhm.
Glasgow Caledonians?
So-
See, I live in England now, so we
Yeah, I know.
the
An old buddy of mine
Wildcats.
actually played on that team, Scott, and often he would come back with us and he'd mention when he was the man of the match.
The man of the match. So
And he got a case of beer.
Our next guest is a returning guest, which I imagine Alison is in the running for as well. Our next guest is Mark Hunter. Next Friday, we'll have Mark Hunter on the show.
Well, I know that everybody's going to appreciate hearing this podcast with Dr. Allison and tune in for the next one with Mark Hunter as well. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Dr. Allison. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you
For
so
attending
much.
the Sales Slap podcast. Feel free to reach out to your hosts, Rick, Simon, and Scott, and our guests from this episode for more information. We look forward to seeing you next time.
So much fun.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Allison.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. That was great fun.